All right. So, hello everyone. My name is Karthik and I am GSEO co-founder. And today we're here to interview Sneha. So, Sneha is a data science and AI enthusiast pursuing her master's in data science and machine learning at the National University of Singapore. So, her impressive portfolio includes internships at Johnson and Johnson, InterSystems, and contributions to innovative AI projects. So, without further ado, let's get to know more about her. So, yes, Sneha, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Neha, and as you have already mentioned, I'm currently doing my master's in data science and machine learning at the National University of Singapore. And before this, I have also recently completed my undergraduate in data science and analytics. And yeah, throughout my university journey, I've been exposed to various kinds of internships, projects that involves machine learning and AI. Yep, so that's about me.
All right, that's great. So I've looked through your profile and I found out that you've worked on a model to detect sarcasm in text. That's a quite interesting project. So can you explain how this model works and what applications did you use or what languages did you use for
Sure.
this?
So this was a project done in my natural language processing course in my final year. So the idea was to basically try to incorporate sarcasm detection into tasks where sentiment analysis are used. Because a lot of times what we find is that when we are performing tasks involving sentiment analysis, the actual output, whether there is a positive sentiment or negative sentiment involved, can be highly influenced by whether the whoever wrote the text actually intended any sarcastic comment in there or not. So just coming from this idea, we thought that let's try to incorporate the idea of sarcasm detection into existing applications of sentiment analysis. So for this, we started by doing like a thorough literature review of existing NLP models, large language models, transformers, etc., that are state of the art and also that are used in this particular context. And then from there, we started testing out several models. So our entire project was based in Python. So we used libraries like Hugging Face to like import large language models of free source, and we also fine-tuned them, trained them on our sarcasm dataset that we had, and this involved the usage of PyTorch. Yeah. Um, and then after that, like we just tested them around. We played around with the different hyperparameters. So the PyTorch package allows you to do that, and then ultimately, by the end of the project, we were able to successfully have a good workable model that had like an accuracy of about 80% in
Hmm.
detecting the sentiment analysis, and it was an improvement from about 70% that was before we incorporated the sarcasm detection. Yeah, so that's the
Oh wow,
summary.
that's quite interesting. And how would a model like this be used in real world? Where do you think it could be implemented?
Hmm. Okay, there are various places where sentiment analysis is used in like real life. So one example could be maybe marketing. So a lot of times marketing teams in various companies, they want to try to understand what their customers are thinking about their product, or just about like maybe anything in the market that is going on. So they would often use sentiment analysis, and in this, sarcasm detection could also help them to better understand the customer sentiments. Another could also be financial market prediction. This is also quite similar. You would want to understand sentiment analysis. Sorry, you would want to understand the sentiment of like maybe on the news articles, social media, financial reports, and etc. to predict market trends about the stock prices, investments, and etc. And I think like a lot of times when you want to analyze things on social media, so this would be like regarding anything. It could be market feedback. Even in one of my internships, we analyze social media data set to understand how people are thinking about a particular disease, in fact. So there are a lot of things that can be done, and I think social media is one of the places where you would really see a lot of sarcasm being thrown around. So in those particular cases, when you have a sentiment analysis model that also takes into account sarcasm, it can be very helpful to figure out the accurate sentiments of the users. Yeah.
Oh wow, wow! I see, I see. Okay, that's quite impressive. It's a new thing, I haven't heard of sentiment analysis yet, so it's quite a new thing for me to listen to. And do you have a lot of projects as well in your NLP classes?
Um, Actually, this was just the one major project I did. But aside these, we had some like mini projects, I would say. In those, we didn't really work on like something as big as this main project, of course, but they were like just mini projects that allowed us to just understand what natural language processing is, understanding things like how do you break down text so that textual data so that the computers can actually understand how to interpret it. How do you convert text into numbers or vectors that computers can understand, and even just some other exercises that just help us improve our skills in PyTorch. Yeah. So those were the other mini projects that I did in my NLP class.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay, and you worked on another project, developing a generative AI tool for automating pharmaceutical asset prioritization. So could you walk us through, how you build this? What were your main goals in doing this?
Okay, maybe I'll start by explaining the context of
Mm-hmm.
like the team I was working in. So, I was working in the new business development team under the innovative medicine, also known as pharmaceutical sector. So, in that team, basically what the team does is they try to find like new market opportunities of what kind of drugs they should bring into the market, or what kind of disease they should prioritize within the Asian market or the different regions within Asia that we have. So, in order to know what drugs you want to focus on or what diseases you should focus on, we had to rummage through like large amounts of data, and this data was not structured. It could be in any form. So, it could be something as simple as a news article, it could be something even more complex as like clinical trial data. It could be even like something as random as maybe even something that someone's saying on social media. So it could be all of these things combined that indicate you a market opportunity of whether this is something you should focus on. So, of course, when we do this manually, it takes a lot of time. In fact, it was calculated by one of the team members that it took this entire process took around 4 months just to like starting from your research up to the date when you are actually finalizing whether this is an opportunity worth pursuing or not. That entire time just takes 4 months because there's just so many things and so many different kinds of data that you have to go through in order to evaluate whether an opportunity is worth pursuing. So, in order to streamline this and make this entire process more efficient, the team had proposed that we would be using generative AI to help us out. So the idea was that we would want generative AI to be able to go through all of these different types of data and tell the user that, if this is, or tell the user, give them a business summary of a particular opportunity or a particular drug or a particular disease. And that way the user can then further analyze whether this is worth pursuing or not. So, when I joined the internship at Johnson and Johnson, this project was just at its very early stages. So I was responsible for creating the first prototype that we had,
Oh,
first working prototype, and that involved firstly starting again with just a whole bunch of research, market research on what methods we could use. Because I guess everyone's aware that ChatGPT is around,
yeah,
and it's also based on something called a large language model, which
right.
has been already trained on textual data. But when we take this large language model, GPT-4, GPT-3, it is not as easy to plug it directly into a business context because you would need to think about accuracy of the responses that are generated. A lot of times you may have also experienced when using ChatGPT that the responses may not be as
Yeah.
accurate, it may not be as specific. So this was one of the major challenges. And that again led us to thinking, how do we want to train the further fine tune, we call this process fine tuning, when you take a model and you further train it on your specific data, that process called fine tuning. So the main challenge that we had from here was that how do we fine tune on these different types of data. So that is when we realized that maybe we should take a different approach. And instead of doing this fine tuning process, we implemented something called retrieval augmented generation.
Okay.
So, how that works is, so basically, we already have our large language model, right? So,
Mhm.
we have our GPT-3, GPT-4. There are also a lot of others, maybe like Llama 2, if you have heard. So, it's by Meta. There are a bunch of large language models out there. Yeah, so you take this large language model, because the large language model already has the capability of understanding text. What's the next thing that you have to do is simply plug it in to a database where you have all of these different types of textual data, so
Mhm.
that large language model can simply scan through the data and give you the response accordingly. Yeah. So this was the main architecture that I then developed for the team. So that again involved using Python and this really helpful library called LangChain. This is a
Okay.
very new library in Python. Yeah, and it's usually used for AI development, chatbot development. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's very useful. So I use that, and then I also explored some of the things in vector database. So this was essentially for of figuring out techniques on what is the most efficient way for the large language model to be able to scan through the data, because again we want it to be able to do it quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so there were a lot of things involving maybe like similarity search, meaning that, so let's say you have a question from a user, then how would you search based on the keywords accordingly and search in the different text that you have for the appropriate answer. So yeah, there are a lot of these minor things that are involved in optimizing the search process. Then from there, once these different things were tested and finalized, after that I moved on to making the final user and yeah, end user interface, sorry, end user interface. So this involved prototyping with library called Streamlit. Yeah, and there I just built an end user chatbot interface where the users could finally interact and test out this model. So yeah, that sums up the project that I did.
That's quite interesting to hear. And you said you work with a team. So how big is this team? And do you just have programmers, or do you have other medical professionals as well involved?
Hmm. So the team that I interned with was actually a new business development team. This team was, I think it had around 10 people in the Singapore office,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a few more people from like offices in China, Japan, and South Korea. So including all of that, it would be around like 20, 25 people. Yeah. So, although my main team had only like business users, so they were more involved in like, yeah, new business development. So they were mostly from backgrounds where they had knowledge about marketing or just about, yeah, just business, supply chain, stuff like that.
Right.
So there were no programmers in my team. So I actually worked with another team as well, the data science team, based in Australia actually. So I worked with the data science team to develop this. I developed this entire prototype under his mentorship, under one of the mentors in the data science team. I developed in his mentorship, and I would like constantly get feedback from the new business development team that's based in Singapore, just to, get their idea on how's the progress, what do they think about it so far, if there's any changes I should make, if there's anything else maybe I should think about and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think one of the really interesting things here was firstly being able to work in cross-functional teams.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting experience because you're not only working with, you know, one team, you're working with different types of teams with that have different kinds of expertise. So that's really good for an exposure. And secondly, it also builds your skills in how do you communicate with different people. Because let's say I'm talking to my mentor from the data science team. I mean, I can talk all of these like technical jargon in Python or in
Mm.
AI, and he would totally understand it. But if talk in the same manner with business users, then I think they might be a bit lost.
Right.
So this also gives you a skill of how do you present your idea based on the audience that you have. And beyond this, I think another thing that I also found useful was the process of design thinking.
Okay.
So this was something I actually learned in my second major. I also hold
Hmm.
a second major in innovation and design. And the design thinking process basically is about like how do you empathize with the users and develop a solution for them. That's like overall that's the general idea of how you do it, because you don't want your solution to be just very like good in your eyes. You also want it to be useful for the actual users.
Right.
So that was another very useful and very insightful experience that I had, because I think oftentimes when you're in the technical field, you would realize that it is very easy for you to develop something that you feel is very good, but sometimes you might forget if it is actually, even useful for the users. So
Okay.
by being able to interact with both like the technical team as well as the business users, I felt that I was able to keep myself aware of the reality of, ultimately these are going to be my end users. So I need to keep them in mind um, with whatever I'm developing. And I need to make sure that the whatever I'm doing is not only just fancy and cool, but it is also actually useful for them. Like at the end of the day, it has to be easy for them to navigate and make their job easier. Yeah. So that's, I think,
I
overall.
see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, that was quite a detailed answer, and you've explained it beautifully how it works. So thank you so much for that. So your background spans both AI and mathematics. So you've done both AI and maths at university. You've done innovative design as well. So could you explain a bit more about what you've learned in your IDP?
Sure. So IDP stands for Innovation and Design Program. In that program, we basically learn two things. Firstly, innovation. So innovation just means like just developing your mindset on how do you actually think about innovation. And a lot of times innovation is not just like you think of a new idea and that's it. You have to also consider other aspects, such as like whether it is even feasible to implement.
Okay.
Is it realistic? Is it something that is maybe even useful or desirable for the users? And is it something that is sustainable, like sustainable not just in terms of like green, but sustainable, I mean, in terms of like how much maybe maintenance do you need for it, how much money do you need to develop it, how much resources do you need to put into it. So all of these aspects, so that's what I learned under the innovation hood. Then moving on to the second part, design. So this is not like how you do graphic design or artistic design, but it's rather more about the design thinking process that I had mentioned earlier. So it essentially there's like, if you Google design thinking, you will actually find this whole flow chart of how it starts at the user. So you would start at the user empathy stage, you would empathize with their pain points, you would try to figure out what the problem statement is, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and then from there you would come up with ideas. You would do prototyping, and then you would test that idea, and you just kind of repeat that cycle until you get at a stage where, yeah, I think you have a final product developed. So that is the design aspect of the course. So these are the two things that I learned in my second major.
Oh, wow, wow, I see. Okay, so you took two majors, and am I correct if I say you took two minors as well, along with those two majors?
Yes,
Whoa,
yes.
whoa, that's quite a lot. So how did you, balance your time? Two majors and two minors, that's quite a lot.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't think it was easy. I
Mhm.
mean, there were days when I would be really, yeah, I would say that I would be stressed out either because maybe of group projects or just like too many deadlines approaching. But I think at the end of the day, I made it because I took all of my majors and minors due to my interest area. And I think at the end of the day, if you're doing something you're really passionate and interested in, you will like ultimately find the motivation to just keep going and you will make it through. Yeah. Even if the journey can be very challenge even if the journey is super challenging, you would always find the motivation to make it through if you are really passionate and interested in what you're doing. Yeah. So I think that is the main thing. And secondly, I guess just minor tips here and there would be like it's okay to not work 24/7. Like, find your way of working. Like, I know people who just need to take breaks like every hour or every 30 minutes. If that's you, then just do it. You don't have to feel like I have to sit for 5 hours just on this assignment until I complete it. Or sometimes even people think best at night, or they maybe think best at morning. So I guess part of it is also like just finding your way of working. Yeah, just see what fits you. And because I think I have seen a lot of my friends, like what they do is they just stare at their screen or stare at their assignment until it's done. But I think that's not efficient at all. I think what's more efficient is if you do try to take breaks in the middle, you yeah, you just follow what you feel like doing at the moment. And I think that's the best way for you to be efficient in what you do. And lastly, I would say is prioritizing. Yeah, like when you have a lot of things on your plate, like for me example, asides my second double major and double minor, I also had like my CCAs. So I was also the president of NUS Mathematics Society.
Right,
Before that, I was also the project director, and I had also joined an arts club, NUS Indian Instrumental Ensemble, where I played the piano. So I also had all of these things going on, but I think I did know how to like prioritize that which one is more important to me at which stage of the time. So that way, I think you are able to better allocate your time for these different things once you know your priorities and you know like what is more important for you. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so good tips, really, really good advice right there. Thank you so much for that. You've mentioned NUS Math Society, so it's quite an interesting thing. Could you please explain, what activities do you do?
Okay. NUS Mathematics Society. So we do a whole bunch of activities. So this spans from like seminars or symposium kinds of mini lectures or mini workshops, either by like professors within our university or even professionals who are working in the industry. Or we also have events such as like if by events sorry by events I mean like competitions such
Right.
as like Sudoku competition. Last year we even held an integration bee in conjunction with the Cambridge University and other universities in the UK. Yeah, we also have held a Rubik's Cube competition on an international scale,
Right.
and we also have this problem solving competition called Problem Epic. Yeah,
Okay.
and beyond these like seminars, workshops, and competitions, we also like try to engage our undergraduates with seniors,
Mm-hmm.
alumni, and like yeah, just other professionals, other professionals and professors who are already working in their field, so that they may provide guidance to yeah the undergrad students. that kind of sums up what we do at Math Society. Yeah.
Oh wow, wow, I see. I see. And before NUS, you've also, participated in a lot of math competitions. You won awards as well. How did your involvements in these competitions, help you at your math society, do you think?
Okay, hi.
No problem.
So your question was okay, give me a moment to think. It has been quite a while. Wait. Wait, how it has helped me in Math Society, is it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, the maths that you learned from maths. I remember I went with you to Korea back in
Yeah, that
2018.
one. Like there were quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, wait. I would say that how it has I feel like it has kind of helped me academically too though. Do you want me to
Mhm.
answer both? If that's
Yeah,
okay.
sure. However,
Okay.
it's helped you.
Okay, I'll just start with Math Society first. So, how has math competitions helped me in NUS Mathematics Society is um since I have been like at the role since I was the project director and then the president at NUS Mathematics Society, I feel like I have been quite heavily involved in the event organization part of this as well. So, firstly, I think by attending these math events, math competitions in my high school journey really helped me to understand, what these events are actually like and kind of get a feel of what would participants like, what would they not like, things like that. So I think this teeny tiny little things help me not only organize events like in a structured way but also kind of help to design problems or like just lead the team whoever are designing these problems and what kind of problems do we even want to have. And maybe one example I can share with you is so an event that we have that I mentioned earlier, Problematic, which is a problem solving competition. What we do is we don't just give them question paper as if it's an exam, but
Right.
what we do is we kind of segment it into three parts. So he would maybe solve some problems for 20 minutes, and then right after that we will also tell you how to solve the problems.
Oh,
So in that way, like you would just have that sandwich, like 20 minutes problems of solve 20-minute problem solving, 20 minutes of discussion on how you solve it,
okay.
and you just have that maybe for like 1 hour, 1.5 hour. And I think what is really exciting about that is, you don't have the feel that you're just going and taking an exam,
Right.
but rather like you are trying to actually engage people and make the entire process of problem solving very fun.
Oh.
So I guess these ideas like really came by when I also participated in such math competitions previously.
Hmm.
um, Aside that, I think such math competitions have also helped me academically because firstly math competitions, like, they are unlike the math problems that you see in school. They really require you to creatively think how to solve this problem and just really think out of the box.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think academically, it has not only helped in maybe my courses, but it has also helped me to, develop this mindset of how do I think creatively. So this could actually be in any context, whether I'm doing a project, whether I'm solving a math problem,
Hmm.
whether I am working with group mates, or even like resolving a conflict in my math society. It could be like a wide range of things. So I think that's one of the really key things that um, math competitions train me for. Yeah.
Hmm. I see. I see. And are there also others in, math society or in NUS in general who have done math competitions as well?
Um, there are quite a few. Actually, there are a handful of people who are like medalists at IMO. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
that's I guess that's the most prestigious math competition we have
Yeah.
in the world. And there are like yeah medalists from IMO. There are also medalists from other competitions. In fact, wait, what was the competition we went for in South Korea? I also
W.
know someone who was part of that competition. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
there are a lot of people who are medalists. at such competitions. But again, it's not only like math competitions. There
Yeah.
are also like others like physics, chemistry, and I think recently they even have like an international Olympiad for AI. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
there's all these sorts of competition. Yeah. So
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's quite interesting. This NUS Math Society is quite a new thing. I've also, just recently heard of it. So, and it's cool to hear that you have such interesting competitions, not just problem solving, but discussion as well, which is quite a new thing. I haven't seen this anywhere else. So it's quite innovative. And beside academics, how do you think NUS has helped you in your career? Maybe it is in your internships as well.
hmm. I think how NUS has helped me. I mean, firstly, the most obvious answer would be the courses that I've taken.
Mm-hmm.
Like coming from a more technical background, I think like my courses that have really equipped me with like how do you maybe train a model, how do you like analyze a data set,
Okay.
or how do you like yeah just do all these different types of things. It has the courses in NUS have really built my foundation. And when I say this, I really mean like they build the foundation from like the basics of math. Like they start all of it from math. Like the core of everything is math.
Mm.
Like in every class, we would always start with like a bunch of math equations. And
Okay.
often they would be in letters, they're not in numbers.
Okay.
And yeah, we would like understand them, why we are doing what we're doing, and then only we go and implement them in Python or R or whatever library.
Okay.
So I think like having a foundation in math and oh yeah, statistics as well,
Mm-hmm.
these two were really helpful for me in my field, because I think like especially when it comes to machine learning and AI, what really matters is the math and the stats that is behind it. Otherwise, like if you are only just throwing in a bunch of codes without knowing what you are even doing,
Yeah.
then I don't think like the model would actually be useful, firstly.
Mm.
And secondly, coding languages like come and go. In fact, if we go back maybe like 20 years ago, or even go back more than that, no one knew what was Python, but
Yeah.
Python just came in recently.
Yeah.
So by that, what I'm trying to say is that I'm sure that those who were able to make the switch from whatever coding language they previously used to Python now, they were strong in math. Like, because if you are just really skillful in a coding language without knowing what's going behind the scenes, I think like yeah, that's just surface level knowledge. So yeah, overall I think the courses firstly have really helped me to build like my knowledge and understanding from ground up. Secondly, in my course at least, I have had enough opportunities of doing group projects. And oftentimes you would not be able to choose the people you want to choose. Sometimes you are stuck with people who you may not really enjoy doing projects with. And I think this like just replicates what you would also see in real life. Like you can't always choose the people you work with. And
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is different. You're bound to have conflicts. You're bound to have different working styles, which may sometimes cause conflicts. So I think when you just like start your university, these things may feel very stressful because you just want to get the work done.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, these other things may really cause you stress. But I think like by year 3, year 4, you kind of start getting used to it, and you just start even learning how to like deal with it.
Mm.
Like you just learn how to deal with differences of opinions. You learn how to deal with different working styles. You learn how to deal with, okay, so how do we come to a compromise? How do we come to a common point where we all agree? Stuff like that. I think I found this really useful in my internships because I would be working with a team of professionals that I've never met, I've never known. And especially like in Johnson and Johnson, I worked with teams from different expertise, right?
Mm.
So I think the ability to be able to just work with people, like any kind of people, is very, very valuable. skill that you're gonna get. Yeah. I guess you start doing this in high school as well, but I mean, I think when you are at university, it's a bit different because, yeah, I think the intensity is there more. So you kind of really learn how to manage, yeah, people management skills. Yeah.
I see. I see. Okay, interesting response. And last question before we end
Oh,
off
oh,
this
oh,
interview.
sorry. I wanted to add one more thing, if that's okay.
Go for it. Go for it.
So thirdly, how NUS has helped me is
Hmm.
the workload here is not easy. I'm gonna be very honest. Like the workload is quite crazy,
Hmm.
and it's gonna be a huge shock when you come from like school and enter university. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm speaking for NUS, but I think roughly it is kind of true for any university. Like university workloads are more challenging than high school workload.
Okay.
So when you enter a university, I think when you are, just thrown into like a lot of workload, and you're kind of just also starting to, getting you're also starting to get independent because that's when like maybe actually leave your home, go to a new
Right.
place, stuff like that. So I think this whole process kind of just helps you shape you as a human being. So
Okay.
this could be on multiple levels. This could be like on your personal levels, on discovering yourself, discovering your interests, discovering your,
Hmm.
yeah, just what do you like, what do you don't like. Or it could be also more something as simple as, I learned how to manage my time.
Right.
Yeah, because there are so many things going on. So I think this whole process of like university, this whole university experience, this ecosystem that you enter in is really going to like teach you how to be a human. If I mean, it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense, but it does make sense because like there are just a lot of things in life that you will realize that you have to learn how to do. It could be just like just managing different things. It could be like, yeah, okay, I think I am just repeating my points again, but
Hmm.
essentially
Okay.
the entire experience will teach you how to be like good at life management. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. I
Mm.
see. I see. Okay, that was actually my last question about NUS workload. So thank you for answering that. That was nice.
Okay, and use workload. Yeah, that's all then.
Okay. All right. Okay, so thank you so much, Neha, today for your time, for your amazing answers. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me as well. I hope whatever I shared would be helpful to whoever's watching this. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. All right. Okay. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.